that or difficult issues, and you're very vulnerable in the system. And that means we were thinking about, is there something else what we can maybe do in this topic, especially in these days? And we come up with the idea that maybe let's turn back to more a community-based approach, a self-mannered ways, how we can get to access healthcare. And so there is this Hungarian term called kalaka, and that was our main inspiration, which means in Hungary, in the villages, people gather, young women, old women gather to a community place, and that's the place where they are producing textiles like embroidery or crochet or knitting. And that's just a community, I think, but that's way much more, because that's where you form a circle and you talk together, you start to gossip, to build trust. And that's the place where you can actually, you know, share difficult things, and you can ask things from the community, from this aggregated knowledge, you know, like how, you know, like women knows things for a long time from past practices. So that was our main idea, how to approach this healthcare in the modern ages. And then our idea was like, okay, let's gather together, let's start to make textile together, and then let's assemble it to a whole blanket, what we come up with. And I think that's what you can see it on the table. You can also try it on. And as we were doing it, a lot of difficult topics came up. Like we, as a group, touched a lot of things. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't talk about it. Maybe Julia will talk about those difficult topics. The topics of whatever. So we made these patchwork things. Everybody made a little samples, and we actually integrated a little like PCBs, a little like electronics inside them. So they are all touch activated, which is also a part of like getting anxiety out of your system, to have this very tactile sensory movement as well. So you, after the presentation, you're welcome to come up and check it out, the tactility and the sensory part of it. This is our outcome, I think. And also we touched the topic of witchcraft during this session, when we were emerged this like ancient practices, what women can bring in to modern healthcare. So we wrote a spell. What Julia gonna say?
We, the carers of this future of living circle, we're united in a multicultural soft kalaka to tell to each other stories and dreams on how health and care relates all of us. While intertwining threads and metal together, we practice and we continue to practice care. Whispering our bodily fluids and emotion, we practice care. Breaking the gendered power dynamic that technology embodies, we practice care. When crafting warmth and softness with the tip of our fingers, we practice care. Becoming the healer of our own bodies, we practice unconditional care. Kalaka, Kroshgek, Sejatoire will always meet to weave the past, our present, and speculate on futures, on horizons where collective intimacy will thrive.
Hello? Is it okay? Well, first we're like coming back to the first group that is talking. the traditional and digital crafts, because we were a lot of people, so we decided to focus, like to divide ourselves in different groups to try to focus in different topics and to develop different things. So in this second part of this group that we are sitting here, we were like sharing a bit our own practices. And we saw that although we all were using different techniques, we were kind of focused on developing a technique or giving visibility to it or like trying new ways of using these techniques. But we were also especially interested in volumes. And also we wanted to learn about these machines the Green Fabric has. So, well, we did like a training of the embroidery machine. And we thought of how to make volumes out of this technique of embroidery. So we started designing shapes to put into this machine to later try to give a shape to it, no? Not leave it just in the 2D shape, but trying to build a wall or give volume to it. In my case, for example, we designed a net shape in which I did a net, which is the technique I use in my own practice, and this is something that I had never done, doing a net on a net, which wasn't really a net in the beginning, but an embroidery net. So for me, well, I think it was more kind of an experimentation session in our case. If you want to explain a bit.
Maybe it's good to say what kind of special when we put together, we're all based on. So technically, you're a net maker. I make baskets, embroidery. I would probably fascinating. And you're really good in connecting this little craft and craftsmen together, which this is sort of the team that we have. And we did focus on a main point. Can create new concepts other than make it. Yeah, it's just trying to understand the machines and the technique, and now would be the point that we can develop new concepts. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, for example, I see immediately that I told you about the other one that you held up. So it's for me, it's more like how, yeah, the thinking of what shape can this take afterwards.
Yeah, with the embroidery, I think the size is quite something. So yeah, we started from a thread, and the idea was like, how can thread with the embroidered structure hold as a yeah, experiment actually. But with thinking of how to make it quite. Yeah, I invite you to go because they are quite closer. So the idea was like that we embroidered shapes that are kind of fibers or like grids, and that then we can combine this digitally generated shape with an handmade gesture afterwards. So either weaving, either fishnetting, and so on, and to see how those two interact. And indeed, I think now we sparkle like a few ideas that can later become project objects or clothing and so on. Thank you.
Okay, I prefer to stand. We were quite a small group. We were the upcycling and zero waste group. For me, quite another new topic, but I normally do other work. we started with heavy discussions about textile waste, about what is upcycling, what is recycling, and we then were a little bit lost after 2 or 3 hours, and then we just decided, okay, for us, upcycling and recycling is about making and about the joy of making. So we just started and in this green fabric, really nice fab lab, and we found these napkins or handkerchiefs, and really fell in love with them because the quality that they have does not exist anymore like this, like they're woven, not printed. So the color is really in the material. And we just allowed ourselves to go crazy with them. We have some participants missing, but Reed Aus from Estonia, she made all these little baskets, very quick, she was always looking like to make a product. She's thinking in products. So she said, okay, 2 seams and you have a little product. Yeah, wait, no. Yeah, I was mostly thinking, what is the future of textile? Like, where will it lead to? And what can I do? My impact is normally with color, with dyeing. And my question was also, how much is upcycling? Like, how much does a product need to be upcycled? Where's the limit? When is it still an old product? When is it a new product? Yeah, another little baggie. So we had quite some outcome. I also invite you to touch and to ask questions to me later. And then we had another strand, like our group was small, but we somehow divided in 2. And yeah.
So basically, the idea is that when it comes to recycling, upcycling, and zero waste, we think that as a first step, you can try to find a way to use the material as it is. And if you can make something, remake something, and do something very simple with that, then it's valid. For example, super simple reuse. The restaurants can take it. They are very handy. You can have them in you can customize them. You can put the color or the design. There are some designs about like more folding patterns. But then if this is not viable, and the fact of being able to upcycle, recycle is a matter of people. You need people for that. You need the community. You need the makers. No? So the first thing that you would tap on is the community for doing that. But if you cannot do that, then you can go to the next stage, which is the recycling. In this case, you would do either mechanical or chemical recycling. In the green fabric, they work a lot with mechanical recycling. There is a shredder machine that is very nice. It makes a lot of dust of threads, and you can have different types of granulometry, let's say, or the way that you recycle. You can recycle more in pieces of stripes. So you can embed these kind of designs already on other fabrics, but you can also go into the small pieces of recycling, very, very small pieces, and then you can go into a very small pieces of recycling. This is jeans, cotton jeans that has been embedded on felting wool, and also the knitted waste, the first part of the knitting machine. So it's a multi-material. Then this material, the knitting of the knitting waste of the machine, actually is a bio-based fiber that when you heat press it, it becomes kind of like a plastic, bioplastic. So you can have different qualities of the material. This research is ongoing research that is happening at the Green Fabric. So they have a very nice catalog that we were able to look into the different processes that they have been working on, and then we were able to kind of also contribute to this research. And finally, we decided that, so finally we decided to make a bigger sample because there is also like a felting machine at the Green Fabric. So we wanted also to use, they have dry felting with needles, and they also have wet felting machine with rollers. So we did these samples. So bigger samples. So there is a very nice transparency on the materials as well. And at the end, we decided that we wanted to do kind of like a product that uses the shredded fibers as color. So we sprinkle color, and we use a very traditional technique of wet felting when you put applique, like when you do some details. There are many tutorials about how to put details and how to embed them on the felting of the wool. And we made this hat that I can also wear.
It's not listed on Vinted yet.
But it's nice. I like it. But the idea now here is that, as we said, upcycling is a thing that is more community-based. And if you don't have the people, you don't have the ideas, you don't have the resources. People are the resources. So our idea is to open to you a 60-day challenge or a Christmas challenge, where we can give you these materials, and then you can decide if you want to do something with those, and then you can send a picture on our group. You can keep it if you think that you will do something over Christmas, but you can also give it away. You don't need necessarily to keep it. It's not mandatory, you know, to do something. So we would like to do this social experiment where we can see from the 50 people that are here, maybe what is the percentage of the people that they would do actually something with that. And then also to get back to the images of what the creativity of this group brought into finding a solution, of finding a use for this material. So yeah, I can give you around those. If you want to take it, you can take it. I don't see, you can keep it. Yes, there are also some dyed ones already. You can over dye it, you can paint it, you have a lot. So I would like that. I thought I'm lucky. And then you can
And they ask, what are the dyes?
There was the question which dyes we used. No, not the gray lilac is a lockwood, so natural dyes, and the yellow is reseda, good. And then I combined it with digital print to have these two sides on one page. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
The one thing in our discussion, and that was something that we start like when we started. Reed showed us part of her work, and the discussion was also how that she also said, what is the future of textiles? So there's also that question of how will textile grow from now on, because we know the textile industry continues growing and it's probably non-stoppable. So there were some questions thrown there as to what is it more wasteful, industrial dyes or natural dyes? What is it more wasteful to produce, to continue producing cotton, or to try and find alternative fibers like cellulose, invest in these kind of things? Like always with the idea that the industry will never stop, unfortunately. That is, it can slow down, but it would be really naive to think that anything is going to stop. So there were those questions that I think we kept in mind this weekend, you know, as to also as individuals and communities. Probably the impact we have has nothing to do with industrial impact, but in a individual practice, we can also think, okay, you know, what is it more wasteful, to repair something 1,000 times and make something beautiful out of it, or continue buying things? Or, you know, I think probably the answers aren't easy or simple, and sometimes the question might sound maybe stupid, but I think if we keep that in the back of our minds, I think somehow it will have like a sort of transformative potential in the long run, at least individually, I think. Well, thank you.
This one? Yeah. Okay, hi everyone. We are the last biomaterial group. Unfortunately, we are just 3 of us, but we were a big team to working on this. So our group was mainly focused on implementation of biomaterials into fibers. So I think as none of the participants first, or none of us, had experience with biomaterials, we were trying to explore what kind of bioplastics we can use combined with the fiber. So we had recycled fibers, then we had wool, and we had the DIY machine that Alexander brought. So we were trying to combine these two tools together to implement them into a product or into different experiments, as the workshop itself was very experimental. So maybe I can talk a bit about the hats and the wool fiber that we did, and then we can maybe split around. So we have a short collection of hats, actually, what was funny, because then we understood that also the other group started working on that in parallel, and we didn't know until the very last moment yesterday. So first we tried at several patterns that also Eva had from her work, and we dive into very simple pattern making that then you can apply the biomaterial and the sodium alginate on top of it to kind of create the coating, because sodium alginate has water resistant properties. So you can take this head and just use it in this beautiful Belgian weather that it's, I think, very important every day to have something more resistant, and then you can use the wool fibers that comes as from the post process. So it's actually waste that is trying to implement it and to bring another value into that. So we have one that is this one that is more DIY version, because the fibers are not so stiff and felted together. But then you have another design that is more fancy, good looking, that comes also with a good pattern, and it's also as well recycling some of your work, the wool one. It's industrial, okay, my bad. Anyway, and then we kind of coated it, and then we have some samples that were more applied into the gloves and alpaca wool.
For me, as a clothing designer, it was very interesting how the bioplastic can form with wool on the body, and it can really we can skip the pattern making phase and just make something really ergonomic. So we did this, we 3D printed the hands and then formed the bioplastic combined with wool glove, an outer layer of a glove. And it didn't really work out very well in the end, but it's a process. But the idea is that we could also implement some beauty ingredients in it, so it helps, it has the water resistance values, but at the same time has some beauty aspects, helps wrap skin and just makes it better. So that was our glove experiment. But we also had a lot of really nice samples of bioplastics combined with fibers. And it's just, I think it's very visually interesting as well.
Yeah, we do again. Some of the samples are not dried, so it's still cold, still full of water, which is also a nice feeling. The bioplastics were really new for me, and I learned many things. It's super interesting. I think that we all went to the alginate coating, and what was really interesting is that some of us had more mechanical process on felting, needle felting or wet felting with wool or jute, organic materials, and some have more chemistry background with all those chemical process. It was super nice to discover this DIY felt loom that Alexander created and that have been reproduced thanks to Green Fabric. We broke the selection of a lot of wool materials, some industrial felts, but also this material was actually super surprising because it is this felt kind of loose. It's not really dense. Is actually a product, but like a side product because it's a wrapping material that is used for shipping parcels. So this was, I think, dog food. So was this wool material, which is like organic and biodegradable, and I mean it's incredible fiber, but it's used not as the main product but as packaging. And I think it's crazy because it's a noble fiber, but so I was also really happy to discover this. And on the packaging, it's really interesting because they say that you can use it. It has a second purpose, and you can put it on your garden. And it's because wool is full of azote, so it's a really nice fertilizer. So we add this wool packaging material. We have industrial wool, so actually a really expensive product, but this was just leftovers. And we had also raw fibers, so we recorded it, mixing it with also those shredded textiles. So it's also really linked to your research. And as Anastasia said, it was really interesting for us to use the color that already exists without this step of dyeing. But I don't know if you have samples, maybe it's somewhere. Yeah. So it's really interesting to be able to add these aesthetic parameters to a fabric without this step of dyeing, which textiles use water and so on. Yeah. So here is a mix of wool, carded wool, and also felted with the felt loom, with knitting leftovers from also Belgium little company who is processing wool, and this is mouton ardennais, roux ardennais. So it's really local breed, really beautiful textile. So yeah, this is like really 3 experiments we did. So how to assemble a knitting fabric with non-woven. And this is more, so Alexander's sample. So this is carded wool coated with a really thin layer of alginate. And also this is really efficient process to create a textile. So yeah, it was really, I think it's really, I mean, it told to me a lot to use this, to do this research in water repellent materials because of our climate. So it's a really local, I think it's really meaningful for our, where we are living. And yeah, there are more, experiments here. We will put it on the table, so don't hesitate to touch it, to try the stretchiness, and also the transparency. So it's something really wow effects. But yeah, it was super interesting. And now I think we have a lot of matter to think further about the applications and so on. Oh, this is also kind of prototype actually. Oh, it's not dried at all. That's funny. So this I've been made in few hours. Yeah. So this is a felted surface. Processed. So the fibers are the felt is made with the felt loom. So this is basically a surface shaped and assembled with 2 stitches here and here. And so you have this wool felt, loose felts to create that slipper. And these have been just dripped, put in alginates as a sole, yeah, sole, for the pronunciation. And yeah, I mean, it's not, we can't test it, but I'm super curious about what's gonna happen with this. And this also is really efficient way of creating something that, I mean, we all daily use. Yeah. So that's it.
Well, thank you everyone for this amazing prototypes, and I'm very glad to see all the outcomes and the the risk of just putting people who don't know each other together, and that some magic happens. And yeah, it's very satisfying to see all this work, and I hope that it will give ideas for concrete projects, because of course in 2 days it's difficult to make something that's very finished. And I hope for new collaborations, also European collaborations. So thank you everyone. And I believe that there's a brunch coming up. And so in order to have some space for eating, we will leave the prototypes for like 20 minutes so that you can see them, but then we will wrap them up so that we have more comfort to eat, and then space for the presentations in the afternoon. So yes.